Welcome to episode 8 of the Auto Intel Project. I'm rapidly running out of fingers. As next part of our Industry Insider series, we're going to continue our series on decarbonization and electrification. This is part 2, the big picture. Let's go. Once again, you will recall last time in part 1 and episode 7, we talked about the vehicles that we're encountering as we sort of move away from hydrocarbon powered vehicles. One of the things I always get asked, or that you might wonder, is how long is this all going to take? Now, we don't have necessarily an obvious answer, but we can definitely get some clues based off of some things that are going on. For instance, we can get clues for regulations because regulators tend to work with the industries that they're trying to regulate. There's no point making a regulation that everyone in the industry has no hope of adhering to. So, as examples, the UK and Germany have both targeted 2030 as when they want to be no longer using hydrocarbon-powered vehicles. California, one of the biggest jurisdictions in the States, and Quebec, the second biggest jurisdiction here in Canada, have both targeted 2035 to no longer be using, gas-powered cars. We're also starting to see the companies themselves make commitments. GM targeted 2035 to no longer be using gas-powered cars. And other things we can take in to sort of guide how we think this is going to go along is other regulations. So one is CAFE in the States, which is corporate average fuel economy. Companies in the States are told that they've got to maintain a certain level of fuel economy across all of their vehicles on average. And every year the expectation for this gets a little bit higher. This means that your old gas guzzlers, the companies are going to try to avoid selling them, and they're going to try to replace them with more fuel-efficient vehicles. And that's also going to guide how things shift in the middle years. Another big thing is batteries. So batteries have these heavy metals, and that's going to drive some things. And then technology itself is also going to be a key consideration. So one of the things we've really seen the last couple of years is batteries have become way more capable. You now can have an electric car that has 300 miles or 500 kilometers worth of range. Back, only a few years ago when a Nissan Leaf might only give you 100 kilometers of range. This, of course, has a trade-off. A bigger battery requires more weight, which means it demands more of the engine going forward. This is why, battery-powered cars are all over the place, but, we're not really seeing battery-powered transport trucks all over the place because, they would need absolutely massive batteries to have a battery-powered transport truck, and they haven't figured that out yet. Another thing we wonder about is exchangeability. What if, rather than continuing to have bigger and bigger batteries, we just moved into an environment where you just pull into a station and they swap the battery out of the bottom of your car and put a different one in, and that only took 30 seconds. To charge these modern batteries, even in a fast charging situation, often takes 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then to plug it into your wall at home often can be 24 hours for some of these bigger batteries out there. Other considerations you might wonder about. If you're a consumer and you just want a car that's cleaner, one of the most important things from a carbon perspective is just the manufacture of the vehicle in the first place. And then we also talk about the electricity source. Both of these are big drivers. If you get your electricity from coal in your jurisdiction, where you live actually matters, because then the difference in terms of how efficient your car is running is much closer than if you're getting your power from, say, wind, solar, nuclear, or a low carbon power source. So if you're trying to be greener, you want to consider where you live with respect to your purchase decision. It may make more sense to do something else. Another one that we're going to see shape things is the geopolitics. We talked about these batteries. These batteries are often lithium ion or nickel metal hydride, are a couple of the options we have today. Obviously, we need to mine these metals and we need to get them from somewhere. It's quite conceivable that in a new world that, we used to have wars over oil, it's plausible that, there might be a future era where we're having wars over lithium mines. So how this could have a key influence on which technologies become prominent in the coming years. This also speaks to the hydrogen advantage. Hydrogen is all around us, it's in the air we breathe, it's everywhere. So perhaps this gives, the fuel cell vehicles using hydrogen as their base power source, a long-term advantage over regular battery electric. Another thing we've got to figure out is recyclability. It's easy to recycle a gas-powered car because you just melt down the engine because it's all metal. We're still going to work out on some of these bigger, more complex batteries and figure all this out. And once again, going back to one of my earlier comments, one of the most important components of carbon usage in a vehicle's life cycle is the manufacture of the vehicle itself. Well, if our demand-supply arrangement changes drastically, that's going to completely change the math on the suppliers and us as buyers. If autonomous vehicles and ride sharing sort of take over, maybe nobody owns a car 20, 30 years down the road, which means there's fewer cars on the road. And maybe public transit is way more prominent as it is in, Japan and Europe. That could also dramatically alter the trajectory of these things if we're dealing with a dramatically different number of cars bought and sold. Thank you for watching. I'm going to do one more video in this series on the arrows. Thanks.